Hello, everybody. Marie Gervais here with Shift Management, and I wanted to talk to you today about entry-level resume do's and don'ts. And we're going to cover a few things like why you would want an entry-level resume, who typically has entry-level resumes, and then what you should and shouldn't do generally, and then what you should and shouldn't do if you are an immigrant looking for work in Canada. So going to give you a few tips on all of those things. An entry-level resume is what you are using to get into a new job in a field that you have never been in before, or if you have never worked before because you're out of high school, you're out of college, and you don't have work experience, or if you are a mother who is coming back into the workforce or has not been in the workforce yet. And those are all reasons, or if you're new to the country or you're changing careers, all of those are reasons why you might want an entry-level resume. So an entry-level resume is going to serve all of those different functions and types of people who are looking for work. And I'm going to go through a few do's and a few don'ts, and I'm just going to use my list to make sure that I don't forget any of them. So you want to start with some of the do's that you should do is you want to start with really clear contact information. Make sure that it's easy for employers to get a hold of you, and to have a professional email. Do not have some email that's got some crazy thing on it that people don't know what the heck that is, or a name that's got every member of your family in it, or something that states some church you belong to. Like, none of that stuff is good for a professional email. It should say your name. I'm really partial to Gmail. I would just go with, marie.gervais@gmail.com, or go mariegervais@gervais.com or something like that. Whatever you want to do that's going to just be your name. So make sure that it's your name, and you've got that nice and clear, and that you have a phone number that you check and that people are going to actually pay attention to, because you have an English professional message on it, and that you check the messages and you phone people back, and that you respond in a professional way. So the phone is also linked to the resume. We've got all the contact information. You want to make sure that your resume is clean, clear, professional font, lots of white space on it so that people can see the words easily. And you want to start with a strong opening statement. Strong opening statement would be something that's, for example, you've got, if you were applying for a payroll position, I want to say something like payroll jobs require good organizational skills, and I have developed 3 checklists and templates that can be adapted to different businesses, and I'm also fluent in these softwares for payroll. So then you might say Sage or APS or whatever those kinds of softwares would be. So that's an opening statement that within 3 to 7 seconds, the potential employer is going to consider hiring you because they have seen that. So instead of putting objective, don't do that. Don't put objective, try to get a job in payroll or work for your company. That's just not good. It's dated. Nobody does that anymore. You want to make sure you put in a strong opening statement that will attract their attention. And then you're going to have some of your skills and your experience that has to do with volunteer or courses that you did, or things that are hobbies that have given you skills. You want to explain some of the things that you can do well. So if, for example, you're good at fixing things, well, then you want to put, strong mechanical aptitude and can fix most small machines. Things like that. Of course, it should be true. You should be able to do that, or you wouldn't want to focus in on it. So you make sure that you do the right things that are true. Don't invent stuff. People are going to ask you, and they're going to check. So you want to make sure that whatever you say on your resume is true, it's correct, and it has dates on it. So you organize it in chronological order. So from your most recent to your least recent, and don't put a whole bunch of stuff on there. Just put the stuff that's really going to be relevant to that particular job. So remember, each resume is something that is particular to a job. You don't have a standard resume that you send out to everyone. Each resume has to go specifically to a particular job in a particular company. So you're going to have to research that company, make sure that you've written something that looks like you're going to be able to meet the needs of that company in some way, and that they should hire you because you've done your research. You want to tailor whatever your experience is to the job. So let's say you were looking for, parks maintenance, then entry-level position. Then you might want to say something like enjoys working with people, loves to be outdoors, enjoys mechanical challenges, is well prepared with necessary tools in advance, things like that. Or if it's a repetitive job, you might say love to get the details right on repetitive jobs. So things like that to just make sure that people know that you're applying to that specific position. You should quantify whenever you can. Quantify whatever it is. So you want to add numbers. So for example, if you got the highest mark in a particular course and it's printed to the job, put it in. If your group did a project that was really useful because the city of Edmonton used it, for example, I once saw a resume that really impressed me, and it was from a high school student who had said that the project that they created for sustainable water use in the city of Edmonton was presented to the mayor and city councillors, and that they used 2 of their recommendations. Well, that's great. Like, that's the kind of thing that you'd want to put on your resume. So that person didn't have any work experience, but they did have some experience that showed that they could organize things, present them, and that they could problem solve. So that was a really good thing to put on the resume. Yes, so your transferable skills, things that you can use across different disciplines and different jobs. So if you're good at analyzing and getting to the root of problems, you might want to put that down. If you're good at listening for noises in machines and solving them before they become an issue, put that down. If you're good at keeping the team together when things get difficult, put that down. Those are all transferable skills that help employers see that you can do things that you'd be a good employee all around and generally, in addition to just for that position. Now, don't worry about the 1-page rule. Like this, if you don't have it in 1 page, don't submit it. Not true. You might need to go over the 1 page. It's okay. As long as in the beginning, people's attention is grabbed, then they're going to definitely want to read the rest of the resume, or they'll skim the rest of the resume and pick out the stuff that matters to them. You don't be obsessive about keeping it to 1 page. If you need to explain something and you can add quantifiable results and show that you're competent at what you're saying you're doing, then yeah, you should make it a little longer and do that. What you shouldn't do is share personal information or negative information about yourself. So you don't want to share stuff like sexual orientation, your religion, how many children you have, a photo. Don't put any of that stuff on the resume. And you also want to make sure that if you've had something like, for example, you had a stress leave, or that you had to leave your last job because you and the manager didn't get along, or that you served a prison sentence, don't put that stuff in your resume, because it makes sure that the employer is never going to hire you. If you need to explain those things in an interview, that's different. But for a resume, you want to come across as being a competent person who somebody wants to hire, that's not going to cause them a bunch of problems. Don't use buzzwords, slang, familiar tone. Make sure you stay formal and professional. We're actually compiling, we're going to have it as a download for this video, a bunch of words that you should use and words that you shouldn't use based on job sites like Metropolis and Indeed and LinkedIn. And so they're giving us a list of words. We've got a list of words from them that we're going to put up together for you, and also some keywords that you should use. So make sure you use keywords that are in the job description, keywords to the company, and keywords to the job title you are looking for. We're going to give you some keywords for the job, different fields, but you can find more by going to the NOC Index in Canada. So if you're in Canada and you're looking for work, it's the National Occupational Classification System. So NOC, and then 2016, because that was the most recent one that was updated. They do it every 5 years. They have another update. So the 2016 NOC Index, type in the job title that you're interested in, like, for example, maintenance or payroll, whatever it is that you're interested in. And then other job titles that are relevant will come up, and you can use them or pieces of those things in keywords in your resume. So you want to make sure that your resume has the necessary words in it for the job, so that both the robots can pick it up, and also people who are reading your resume can pick that up and know that you're applying specifically to the job. So you want to use those, but don't use a bunch of words that aren't relevant. And certainly don't use a bunch of flowery things that don't make any sense. On the other hand, you don't want to be so minimal that nobody can tell who you are or what you've done. So it's kind of a balance between explaining who you are and quantifying it, and then making sure that you're not going over the top and being too flowery or flattering of yourself. Another thing, sometimes women will say things like, stayed home to take care of my children. That doesn't make a good impression on an employer. I helped a friend, actually several friends, and also people that have come to me for work, women who have been out of the workforce, and they learned a lot of important things about organizing, about managing finances, about dealing with conflicts from being at home with their children. And that's how they put it into their resume, and it helped them to get work in 2 cases in managerial positions. So you definitely want to say that, but you don't want to say stayed home with children. Like, that doesn't tell them anything. And it looks like you're domestic rather than a professional that would be someone that people want to employ. So that's the general do's and don'ts. And I'm going to add a few for specific to people that don't have Canadian experience. So if you don't have Canadian experience, here's something you should do. You should make sure you have a Canadian equivalency of whatever you are qualified to do on your resume. So if you already have qualifications, then you want to go to IQAS, IQAS, it's the International Qualification Service for Canada, and they will put the Canadian equivalency of what your experience and your education is on a resume for you, so that you can use that. And it's very helpful. It provides comfort level for employers, which is the most important thing. When they say you don't have Canadian experience, they really mean I'm not comfortable hiring you. So you want to make them feel comfortable. And one way to do that is to make sure you've got those qualifications, Canadian equivalency qualifications, good for trades, good for education, any kind of education that you have. So put that on there. Make sure you've shown efforts to integrate into Canadian society. So any clubs you joined or volunteering that you have done that shows that you're practicing English, or that you're integrating into Canadian society. For example, we're running with the running room, or volunteered for a local music festival, or something like that, shows that you're trying to integrate into society. If Toastmasters looks really good, because Toastmasters is public speaking. So if you've done that, if you've joined any kind of local groups, make sure you've got that on there. And any volunteer experience that you've done is always really important for getting work. Any languages that you speak. So if you speak several languages, write down what how fluent you are, written and also spoken. Put those in there, because it is an advantage to speak different languages. And oftentimes people get hired because they spoke several languages, or a language in particular that company has a lot of clients that speak that language. So it can be really helpful. And anything that you can take that would help to show that you have figured out Canadian culture would be really important. Even if you read a regular blog post, or watch CBC News regularly to find out what's happening and some current events in Canadian news that you're interested in, you could even put that down, because that shows more who you are. Of course, I always suggest taking our course, Canadian Workplace, which is really good. It gives you a certificate in intercultural competency in the workplace. Canadian version looks awesome on your resume, and gives you a really good understanding about Canadian norms and expectations. So you're likely to do better in the workplace, and it's easier for you to find work from taking the course. So I suggest that, of course. Of course, I would suggest that course. It is excellent. Now, here's some things you should not do. These are things that people do all the time, and I'm always surprised about it. But, the worst thing is to have this email that is just not professional looking. And people do it, I'd say, even 75% of the time, even higher sometimes. You've got to have an email that's got your name in it. So you want an email with your name. That is so important. So make sure that you do that. Don't assume that employers don't have name prejudice. I suggest having a nickname. Putting that nickname, if your name is long and hard to pronounce, I suggest putting that nickname onto your resume. So I would say you give the name, like let's say your name is Mohammed. Maybe you want to use the nickname Mo, M-O-E. So then you go Mo, and then you could say Mo Mohammed and your last name, or you could just say Mo and your last name. It's not a legal document, a resume, so you can put your nickname on it. And if the employer can pronounce your name, they are more likely to consider your resume. If they can't pronounce it, they probably won't consider your resume. So once you're in the job, you can say, I prefer people call me Mohammed. That's fine. But you already got the job at that point, so it's good. But if you want to get your foot in the door, you want to make that employer feel comfortable, I suggest using a nickname if your name is hard to pronounce. I'd go with that. And you don't want to put a bunch of stuff about your beliefs, your religion, anything that could prejudice the employer against you. You want them to see you as an international advantage, not an international disadvantage. Sometimes people will put, please give me a chance on their resume or in their cover letter, or if someone would just help me or give me a chance, then that would be great. And, and people put that in emails. They also put in their Facebook messages. Do not do that. It prejudices the employers against you. They want to know that you have looked up the company, that you figured out how you could be of service to solve the problem for that company, because that's what gets you hired. It doesn't get you hired to say, please help me. Of course, people do like to help people, but they don't want a sort of a vague, bland, help me, because hundreds of people do that, and it does not get you work. So don't do that. Make sure that you aren't doing anything in your resume that makes the employer think you aren't being completely clear and honest and transparent. Explain any gaps in your resume. in some way that turns the employer in your favor. So if you were, for example, in a refugee camp, so then, you know, from this year to that year in a refugee camp, and worked with the UN to help with food distribution and learned organizational skills on a large scale. There you go. So you turn that into something that the employer goes, I could use that. Not something that is just a big blank on your resume. One more thing, remember about the phone message. Your phone message should be in English. It should be clear. It should have your name in it. And then when you answer the phone, you should answer, hello, my name is, how can I help you? Or, hello, this is Marie speaking. Something that sounds professional and clear and cheerful. So don't answer the phone sounding mad. Don't answer the phone sounding monotone or unclear. And another problem is people don't leave any phone message, or they say something like, I never check my phone, so text me. That just sounds unfriendly. If you're trying to get a job, make sure you have your phone handy and that you are actually going to answer it. If you can't answer it, have a good phone message and get back to people within 48 hours on whatever that request was. Okay, don't worry about your accent. It's more important that you get back to people. That's the most important thing. A lot of people don't. They go, oh, I'm scared about my accent. No, you know what? It's not about your accent. It's about the follow-up. If you show follow-up, that's the most important thing. Okay, I think I've given you everything you need to do. Action item for today. Go to our Canadian Workplace YouTube channel and subscribe if you haven't already done that. And if you have done that, send somebody there, because it's really going to be an awesome resource for people to be able to get and keep work and get promoted. So check out the YouTube channel, subscribe to it. We're trying to get past 100 subscribers, and you can help us do that. And the reason we want to get that many subscribers is so more people will hear about the videos and use them. They're all free, and they're very helpful for helping people find work in their field in Canada. So that's your action item today. Go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and if you're already subscribed, send it to a friend and get your friend to subscribe. So wonderful, and I hope you enjoy the download, which has a bunch of words you should use and shouldn't use in your resume, and some keywords for different fields. So enjoy, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.